Good evening, and welcome to the virtual public information meeting for state project number 83268, which is the rehabilitation of bridge number 6798 that carries I-95 northbound and southbound over Stubby Brook in Milford, Connecticut. We hope that everybody in attendance finds the presentation informative and that we will be able to address and answer any questions or concerns you may have. My name is Jonathan Kang, and I'm a project engineer with the Connecticut Department of Transportation. Before we begin the presentation and introduce the project team, I would like to go over a few housekeeping points and explain the format for tonight's meeting. The meeting will consist of two parts that last approximately 20 minutes each. The first portion will consist of the presentation of design by the department's consultant engineers for this project, Mott McDonald, who are structural lead, and BN engineers who are the highway lead. This will be followed by the second portion where we will host a live question and answer session. On the next slide, I will explain the three means by which we will be able to communicate. There are three means by which we will be able to communicate with us during the live question and answer session. Questions can be submitted via email, calling and leaving a voice message, or if you're joining us on Microsoft Teams, you can use the chat window at the right side of the Teams window. The project email, voicemail, and chat box will be screened by the project team during the question and answer session. Answers to all questions will be posted in the chat window, and all questions and answers will be read out loud. Questions may be asked at any time during the presentation, and they will be answered during the question and answer session. The primary means by which to communicate with the project team will be via email at dotproject83-268@ct.gov, as it is currently shown on the slide. Phones can be used by calling us at 860-944-1111 and leaving a voice message. And lastly, once again, the chat box can be used if you are joining us through the Microsoft Teams application. The question and comment period by email or phone will be open through Thursday, June 16th, 2022. Therefore, questions or comments that are thought of after tonight's meeting may be submitted until June 16th, 2022 via email or voicemail. In Microsoft Teams, questions can be asked by clicking on the question mark to show the live Q&A window. The next slide will provide a step-by-step instructional video on how to submit a question. There's also a project webpage where tonight's presentation, including the question and answer session, will be made available. The webpage will also include information that was explained on how to leave questions and comments for the project team. That website is https://portal.ct.gov/dot-milford83-268, as it is currently shown on the slide. Okay, in Microsoft Teams, questions can be asked by clicking on question mark to show the live Q&A window. Then select the Ask a Question button at the bottom of the screen and then type in your question. You can then send the question by pressing Enter or clicking on the arrow. If preferred, you may submit your questions anonymously by clicking the option to do so. There may be a slight delay, but all submitted questions should appear in the featured section. The Microsoft Teams chat function will only be available during tonight's live question and answer session. And as mentioned earlier, there's also a project webpage where the tonight's presentation, including the question and answer session, will be made available. The webpage will also include information that was explained on how to leave questions and comments for the project team. And as mentioned earlier, the website will be shown again at the end of the presentation and made available to everybody. Next slide, please. I'd like to now introduce the project team. First, we have with the Connecticut Department of Transportation, Bart Sweeney, the Division Chief of Bridges, Lou Baccio, the Principal Engineer, Derek Lassard, the Supervising Project Engineer, and myself, Jonathan Kang, the project engineer. Additionally, Clove Harbor and Associates, or CHA, is working on the project as the department's consultant liaison engineers. From CHA, we have Donald Wurst, project manager, and Aaron Foster, project manager. Finally, the design team from Mott McDonald and VN Engineers. We have Ildiko Juhas, project manager, as the structural lead, and Robert Gomez, project manager, as the highway lead. We invite everyone to complete the public survey after tonight's meeting, which has been established for this project. The survey will provide us with valuable feedback for improving the format of public information meetings in the future. There's also a civil rights flyer available. Links to both the public survey and the civil rights flyer are available on the project website mentioned earlier. Lastly, I'd like to state the following as part of Title VI Civil Rights. No person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. We'll now begin the presentation of the project. And in doing so, I will now hand it over to project manager Ildiko Juhas of Mott McDonald. Ildiko.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, John. As you mentioned, this state project is for replacing bridge number 6798 on I-95 in Milford. This bridge is actually a culvert. It is a 6 feet diameter asphalt-coated corrugated metal pipe that carries Stubby Plain Brook under the Interstate highway. On the next slide, we will have a quick overview of the site. So the red circle shows the location of the bridge on I-95. The brook is shown in blue. It flows from north to south. The bridge is located about 200 feet east of the overpass under Orange Avenue. There are a few buildings near the site. To the north, at the inlet, is the West River Healthcare Center, and the Orange Avenue Elementary School is right across the street from the healthcare center. We also have the Calvary Church to the north of the health center. The southern side of I-95 is mostly a residential neighborhood. Taking a closer look at the existing bridge location. So the bridge was constructed in 1958, the same time the highway was built. The bridge has about a 25-degree skew to the roadway. I-95 has 3 lanes in this direction. In this location, they are all 12 feet wide. They are right shoulders and left shoulders on both the southbound roadway and the northbound roadway, and a concrete median barrier that separates the 2 roadways. The highway is relatively flat at this location. The posted speed limit is 55 miles per hour. The average daily truck traffic is about 132,000 vehicles per day, and 15% of that is truck traffic. We have some photos taken at the site on this slide. The upper left picture shows the inlet from the upstream side. You can see the head wall with the ramp opening for the pipe and the wing walls on both sides. The upper right picture shows the outlet side. As you can see, it is overgrown with vegetation. The lower left photo was taken from I-95 southbound lanes, and the photo on the right shows the northbound lanes. The next slide shows the existing bridge. As I mentioned earlier, the bridge is a round asphalt-coated metal pipe culvert measuring 6 feet in diameter. It was constructed from corrugated steel plates that were bolted together. The pipe is approximately 259 feet long, and it has a slight slope of about 0.2%. The culvert is pretty deep under the roadway. There is about 25 feet of fill and bituminous concrete pavement on top of the culvert. As you saw on the previous photos, the pipe has reinforced concrete head walls and wing walls at both the inlet and the outlet ends. The steel pipe is in poor condition. I will show you some details on the next slides. So as you can see, there is deterioration to the protective asphalt coating inside the pipe. They are random rust holes measuring up to 3 inches in diameter along the waterline. And the photo on the right shows the laminated rusting along the waterline. On the next slide, we have some more close-ups of the existing pipe. Near the inlet, there is about a 40 feet length of pipe where it has significant deformations. You can see it on the upper photo, and the picture in the corner shows the holes at the connections where the pipe is rusted out completely. The table on the bottom summarizes the current condition rating of the culvert as it was recorded during the 2019 inspection. You can see the steel got a poor condition rating of 4. So because of all of this deterioration, the bridge is considered to be structurally deficient and it needs rehabilitation. So the proposed improvements are shown on the next slide. Just to orient you, the culvert is shown in orange, the highway is shown in white, Orange Avenue is outlined in red. So the rehab scheme consists of first building access roads that will lead to the inlet and the outlet. They are shown in green. As I mentioned earlier, a 40-foot length of pipe will have to be exposed and replaced. So there will be some excavation at the upstream head wall to eliminate the pipe deformations. Next, the culvert will be repaired by slip lining with a 63-inch diameter smooth interior aluminum pipe, and the annual space between the new pipe and the old pipe will be grouted. There will be also grouting needed behind the existing pipe to fill any voids in the soil behind the existing culvert. Next, the head walls, new head walls will be constructed, including cutoff walls and flared wing walls at both the inlet and the outlet. And at the end, scour holes will be installed, covered by stone riprap and natural stream bed material at both the inlet and the outlet. So on the next slide, we have a longitudinal section view of the culvert, also shown in orange. As I mentioned earlier, and you can see the 40-foot excavation shown in green at the upstream head wall, and the new head walls and wing walls are shown in gray on this picture. The cutoff walls at the head walls will be helping to minimize any potential for underseepage. And they will be scour holes at both ends, as I mentioned earlier. Below the elevation is a cross section of the culvert. The old culvert pipe is on the outside. The lining is on the inside, and the grout is shown with orange in between the two pipes. The construction will look very similar to the photo that's on the lower right-hand corner of the picture. So next, we will talk about maintenance and protection of traffic, and I will turn it over to Bob Gomez, who will explain how the vehicular and pedestrian traffic will be managed during construction. Bob?
Thanks. Hello, everybody. Safety is a primary concern for us on all projects, but on this project in particular, because we are next to the Orange Avenue Elementary School in a residential area, and pedestrians use the sidewalk. There's 2 sidewalks on each side of the road. So one of the things we're going to do is close the sidewalk on the right side of the road, or the east side, and transfer the pedestrians over to the west side of the road. We'll have signs that say sidewalk closed, and then crossing guards at Walnut Street and over by the school when school's in session, and basically sign it and mark it so that it's easy to maneuver around the site and stay away from the construction zone. In the pink color that you see on Orange Avenue is the actual lanes. They're being slightly adjusted, moved over to the left a little bit to allow room for trucks to enter and exit the access roads so that they don't stop traffic or anything. We have 2 lanes there now. They're 2 wide lanes, so we'll still have 2 lanes. We'll just narrow them down a little bit and shift them over. And we're not really reducing any number of lanes, so we don't anticipate there'll be any significant delays or issues getting through the site. In addition to that, we always like to close off the site when the contractor's not around, or even when the contractor's there, especially when there's children in the area. We're going to have a fence that's going to close off the access roads when they're not being used, to make sure that no curious people go looking in the construction site and get into trouble. So other than that, we've taken a good hard look at the safety for this project and included that in the plans. So we've addressed the vehicular, the pedestrians, as well as bicycles with this concept that we're going to have in this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. So I will talk about the anticipated impacts of this project next. Based on the survey, the state right-of-way is approximately 300 feet wide at the bridge, and the access roads I mentioned earlier and the proposed construction will fit within this area, so there will be no right-of-way impacts as a result of this project. Similarly, based on preliminary coordination with the various utility companies, no utilities will be impacted by the project. The anticipated environmental impacts are minimal. There will be some tree clearing around the access roadways and minimal temporary wetland and watercourse impacts during construction. And the following environmental permits are in the works: the U.S. Army Corps self-verification permit, Section 401 water quality certification, and the Inland Water Resources Construction General Permit from the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. So how long will this construction last, and how much is it going to cost? We anticipate the construction will start in the spring of 2024, and it will end in the fall of the same year. The preliminary construction cost estimate is $1.5 million. And I wanted to note that this project is 10% state funded and 90% federal funded, so there will be no costs to the town. So this concludes our technical presentation, and I will turn it over to Aaron Foster from CHA to start the question and answer session. Thank you.
Thank you, Idiko. This begins our question and answer session for this project. And just a reminder, you can ask questions through email at dotproject83-268@ct.gov, by phone by calling 860-944-1111 and leaving a voicemail. And then finally, live here on MS Teams in the live event chat. The first 2 methods will be run through June 16th. The MS Teams chat will just be live today, so we're here to answer your questions. The first question we have is, what is the expected cost of the project? Ildiko, I'll put that over to you.
Sure, thank you. So I have to say that we are still in preliminary design. The design documents are about 30% complete at this time, and our current construction cost estimate is at $1.5 million. So the cost may subject to change, but we always carry a contingency. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the funding source for the construction will be 10% state funds and 90% federal funds.
I think another question may have come through. Bob, I have a question for you. There's a question about, will I-95 be affected? I believe that's shown on this slide.
Yeah. Yes, thanks. I don't think 95 will be affected. We're going to be working off to the side of 95. There will be some barrier wall and a little bit of slope protection. I mean, shoulder protection for 95 southbound, as shown in this plan. If you can see it there, there's like a dashed black and white line. That's the concrete barrier wall that rubs up against the lane line. So we're not narrowing the 95, and we're not planning on working there too much, but we are excavating near 95. So that's what that's probably why you asked the question. And thanks for asking that question. Good question.
Bill Deco, I think we have another fairly straightforward one. There's a question about where will the contractor stage material and equipment?
Sure, I am happy to answer that one. If you can zoom into that picture that you have on the screen,
Sure,
I believe they are actually shown. So as I mentioned earlier, there will be access roads constructed to access the inlet and the outlet, and along these access roads there is some limited room where the contractor can use as material laydown area. Also on the other side of the inlet and the outlet, these areas are also shown in green. There will be additional laydown areas. As I mentioned earlier, all the construction is anticipated to stay within the state right-of-way line. So there are no temporary takings needed.
Thanks, Deco. There's a question that just came up about why not use HDP pipe. The metal pipe was selected at this site in order to maximize the inside diameter for the maximum amount of flow to flow through. A typical HDP pipe has a larger thickness wall, reducing the amount of flow that could flow through. We got another question about is there contaminated soil on the site? John, are you answering that, or will I?
Yeah, I can take that one.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, so good evening, everybody. So as far as the contaminated soils go, the department performs what's called a Task 100 environmental screening at the outset of every project to do an initial test for contaminated soils. And upon that initial test, if further investigation is required, a Task 710 is initiated by our environmental compliance unit at around 60% design with more information as more information becomes available for the project in the way of development of plans and such. So once that Task 710 is performed by our environmental compliance unit, we will have a better answer as to any contaminated soils, but that will come further along, and we will be sure to take the necessary measures to mitigate the contaminated soils and to also coordinate with the town as well.
Not seeing any more questions come through. We're still here to answer questions that anyone has on this. I'll remind everyone the methods to contact us. We have our DOT email at dotproject83-268@ct.gov. We have by our phone, leaving a voicemail, 860-944-1111. And finally, in the MS Teams live event chat. I think we just got another question. When are the anticipated impacts to pedestrian traffic, particularly the schools? Bob, I'll let you answer that one.
Can you go back to the slide with the MPT? So the plan for this project was for it to start in the spring of 24, which would put it mostly being done during the summer time. That's the goal, because we know to avoid the school traffic and to avoid impacts to the school. That's why we're picking it that time. There's a long process to get to that point, but that's why it was timed the way it was, to minimize disruption to the public.
Thanks, Bob. All right, we see one more question. Question asked, will the access roads be paved? Ildiko, can you take that one on?
Yes, sure. So the access roads will be first used for construction, and they will be covered with a 12-inch processed aggregate. And at the end of the construction, they will remain because they will be used for future maintenance and access for inspections and so on. But they will be covered with seed and loam, so to avoid any potential erosion. So they will look fairly natural at the end of construction.
Thanks, Ildiko. I'm not seeing any more questions come through. I'm going to turn it back over to John.
All right, thank you, Aaron. With that final question, we'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight and participating in our efforts to keep everybody informed so that we might receive all questions and input to produce the best results possible for a successful project. Once again, we'd like to remind everybody of the information that is posted on the current slide with the project email, phone number, and the website as well. And all this information, including tonight's presentation, can be found or will be found on the project website as well. Receiving feedback through public involvement such as tonight's meeting is very important to the department's success to provide the services needed. And with that, we'll conclude the meeting. Also, as a final reminder, the question and comment period will remain open until June 16th, Thursday, June 16th, 2022. So we have a question here, final question. Will the pipe be gated so no people enter the pipe? Aaron, would you like to take that one?
Sure. So we don't intend to have a gate on the pipe. The existing pipe is not gated, and we won't be putting a gate on the new pipe. The gates tend to block debris and hold water upstream, with our intent to keep water flowing steadily through the pipe. Also, this site is fairly far into the woods. It's not really known to passerbys on a typical encounter.
And also, if I may add, that it's important to provide ways for fish to pass the pipe, so they any gate would prevent that.
Thanks, Ildiko.
Yeah, thank you, Ildiko and Aaron. Yeah, and just to add to that, yes, as Aaron briefly mentioned, it isn't anticipated that pedestrians will be venturing into the pipe. So typically gates are not put in. So
John, there's also a gate around the access road, and there will be a gate in front of the access road entrance, in perpetuity.
Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, so as Aaron just mentioned, there will be a gate at the entrance to the access road that would hopefully hinder any passerbys. So with that, we'll conclude tonight's meeting. Once again, the comment period will be open until June 6th. So should you have another question that comes up after the conclusion of tonight's meeting, you're more than welcome to access the project website, the email, and the phone line as well. So receiving feedback through public involvement is very important to the department's success to provide the services needed. And with that, we will conclude the meeting. Well, thank you very much for joining us and have a great evening.